At the company's annual gala, Victoria Ainsworth's newly hired assistant rushed on stage and snatched my trophy right out of my hands. "You deadbeat, you've never even attended a single company dinner. All you do is sleep and play video games in your dorm. What right do you have to win the Greatest Contribution Award?" He turned to face all the employees, shouting with righteous indignation. Sincere Clark is nothing but a shirker who got in through connections. He's always late and leaves early, never does any real work, and shouldn't even be considered for an award. People like him should be kicked out of the company and blacklisted from the industry forever. I instinctively glanced at Victoria Ainsworth in the audience. She was gazing at her assistant with pure adoration, as if he were some grand hero swooping in to vanquish her enemies. I chuckled and turned to leave. "Fine, I don't want the award. I'll go process my resignation right now." But Victoria's father, the president of the company, dropped to his knees in front of everyone, begging me to stay. "Dr. Clark, please don't go. The company can't survive without you." On Wednesday morning, I was fast asleep in the employee dormitory when old Joe, the doorman, woke me up. "Sincere, my boy, stop sleeping. The awards ceremony is happening in the grand auditorium. You're getting the most important contribution award." He sounded more excited than I was, but I didn't feel a shred of excitement. I just rolled over lazily. "Not going. I was up all night gaming. I need to catch up on sleep. It's just a small award, no need to be there in person." That's what I said, but the truth is, I've never even shown up to accept national-level awards. The company usually accepts them on my behalf. The reason is simple: I hate schmoozing. I'd rather play a couple of rounds of a game to clear my head than listen to a bunch of strangers shower me with fake praise. "Son, I think you really have to go today." Old Joe grinned and leaned in closer. I saw her with my own two eyes. "That young lady you've been pining for, the one who's been on a business trip to the States for the last 6 months, she's here today." I shot up in bed and grabbed my phone in disbelief. "Victoria is back?" She didn't tell me. Not only had Victoria not mentioned her return, but our last chat was from a week ago, when I asked her about her weekend plans and what she had for dinner. She never replied. Without a second thought, I quickly washed my face, brushed my teeth, changed into some decent clothes, and headed out. The dorm wasn't far from the office, just a 5-minute bike ride. As I pushed the door open, the host was announcing my award. And now for the most important award of the year, the Employee Contribution Award, which goes to Sincere Clark from the R&D department. The scattered applause was mixed with sarcastic whispers. "Sincere Clark? Isn't that Rip Van Winkle? I heard he sleeps in his dorm 29 days a month, and on the one day the power went out, he spent the night at a gaming cafe. He deserves an award? Shh, keep it down. He's got powerful connections. President Ainsworth himself has his back. Victoria Ainsworth is the president's own daughter, and she works her butt off just like the rest of us. 6 months ago, she had to pass the company's rigorous evaluation to earn that spot to expand the business overseas. No back doors for her. Well, I heard that after Victoria and her male assistant went abroad together, someone saw them going into an apartment late at night, acting very intimate. My heart sank. Just as I was hearing that crucial piece of gossip, someone tapped me on the shoulder. "Well, this is a rare sight, Sincere. You actually came to accept your award in person?" President Ainsworth beamed at me and pointed to the stage. "I just got a call. Have to step out for a bit. You go on up there and embrace your moment of glory under the gaze of the entire company." I walked onto the stage to receive my award. As I did, I saw Victoria sitting in the front row, closest to me. Her eyes were ice cold, completely devoid of warmth. My heart skipped a beat. Before I could even say a word, a figure leaped onto the stage from the audience and, without any warning, snatched the trophy from my hands. "You deadbeat, you've never even attended a single company dinner. All you do is sleep and play video games in your dorm. What right do you have to win the Greatest Contribution Award?" The one who had snatched the trophy was none other than Victoria's assistant, Ethan Miller, the man from the gossip. Ethan Miller had stolen my award, yet he looked at me with contempt as if I were some kind of filth. Sincere Clark, I don't care what connections you have. I'll say what no one else dares to. I will expose you for the fraud you are. He acted as if he were performing a great service, turning to the audience and raising his arms. Sincere Clark is nothing but a shirker who got in through connections. He's always late and leaves early, never does any real work, and shouldn't even be considered. For an award, people like him should be kicked out of the company and blacklisted from the industry forever. When I had accepted the award moments before, there was barely any applause. But after Ethan's incitement, the entire auditorium erupted in a thunderous, overwhelming ovation. Well said, we support you, Assistant Miller. I've been sick of deadbeats like Sincere Clark for a long time. How is it fair that the rest of us work our asses off for $2,800 a month, while he sleeps in his dorm all day and rakes in tens of thousands? Is there any justice in the world? Listening to these insults and attacks, I didn't feel a trace of anger. In fact, I found it laughable. From a young age, I displayed an astonishing talent for physics. By my teens, I had already earned several PhDs from overseas and was a sought-after genius, with top universities and corporations vying to retain me with huge offers. But I wasn't moved by money. My only goal was to serve my country. After completing my studies, I resolutely returned home. Upon my return, I could have joined any top-tier company with better conditions and pay. But my grandfather mentioned that his old army buddy's son had opened a relevant research company in the city and had a granddaughter around my age he wanted me to meet. Out of respect for my grandfather, I came here. I turned down all fancy titles and positions, insisting on starting from the bottom. Over the past few years, with my help, President Ainsworth's company overcame several industry-wide challenges. Its market value quintupled, and it rose to become #1 in the country and a top 10 global player. I just never publicized the fact that I was the one providing the core technological support because I don't like to show off. So of course I wasn't going to get angry over attacks from these nobodies. I just instinctively looked at Victoria in the audience. I've always hated being treated like some kind of freak genius, so when I was getting to know Victoria, I deliberately hid my brilliant resume. Victoria had always been lukewarm towards me, but everything changed after she met Ethan Miller. Take right now, for instance. The beautiful Miss Ainsworth, who had just been giving me the cold shoulder, was now gazing at Ethan with pure adoration, as if he were some grand hero swooping in to vanquish her enemies. Ethan looked back at her and right in front of me blew her a kiss. Victoria, far from being angry, shyly made a heart shape with her hands in return. Watching from the stage, I almost laughed out of sheer anger. Victoria knew perfectly well that her family wanted to set us up. For her to do this in front of so many people was a deliberate attempt to humiliate me. Are you sure you want to kick me out? I frowned, looking at the two of them. I had thought Victoria would inherit her father's intelligence, or at the very least his good character. I never imagined she'd be the type to judge a book by its cover. Of course, you useless waste, all you do is squander company resources, sleeping and gaming in your dorm day and night. Why shouldn't you leave? Ethan sneered at me. It would be one thing if you were content to just coast through life as a nobody. But you actually have the nerve to let President Ainsworth give you an award, the Best Contribution Award, no less. You ask yourself, do you deserve it? Ethan was practically spitting as he spoke. The people around him chimed in with righteous indignation. Yeah, do you deserve it? Can the boss's pet just get lost? Look at Miss Ainsworth. The president's own daughter works diligently, so what gives you the right to use back doors? No matter how good-natured I was, I couldn't tolerate their repeated insults. Ethan Miller, I'm afraid you don't have the authority to make me leave. I stared at him coldly. Victoria's attitude had already made everything clear. She supported Ethan. Too bad for them. Neither of them could decide whether I stayed or left what. You don't actually think you can do whatever you want forever just because President Ainsworth has your back, do you? Ethan looked at me, amused. He stepped forward, grabbed my collar and said, word by word, let me tell you, Victoria is pregnant with my child. I'm going to the Ainsworth family to propose very soon. I don't care what connections you have that make the president indulge you. But, as long as I'm here, you will never be with Victoria. You're about to be kicked out." I frowned and pushed Ethan away, but he stumbled back dramatically.
"Oh no, my phone." He forcefully threw his phone to the ground.
Anyone with eyes could see he'd thrown it on purpose, but the entire crowd immediately turned on me. "Sincere Clark, you dare to hit someone? Who do you think you are? The doormat is fighting back? Let's get him." The scene descended into chaos. In the scuffle, I was pushed to the ground and took a few kicks. After a while, Victoria unhurriedly stepped forward to stop the crowd.
"All right, everyone, that's enough of a lesson.
If you actually injure him, he'll sue you." Victoria smirked, looking at me with utter contempt. I got up, disheveled, but the first thing I did was check my own phone. It's ruined. Looking at the shattered screen, my heart sank. I had an international negotiation call tonight, and the phone had important documents I needed to present to the client. "What's so special about that piece of junk?" Ethan sneered, waving his own phone in my face. "This phone has tons of company secrets, including the documents for tonight's multinational negotiation. Do you have any idea how much money you're going to cost the company?" The crowd below started chanting, "Pay up, pay up." My expression darkened. Did this leech Ethan really think the company's international business was built by him? The only reason Victoria was sent abroad was so her father could give her some credentials before she took over the Ainsworth Corporation. The entire 6 months she was overseas, I was the one who lined up almost all her deals. Otherwise, how could she have turned around a company that had been losing money for nearly 3 years in just half a year? I never planned to brag about it, but I also never expected Ethan to have the audacity to posture in front of me. Is that so? I dusted myself off. "Then what do you plan to do about it?" I stared at Ethan. He smirked. "The documents are gone, so the deal is gone. This deal was worth at least $100 million. You can figure out how to compensate for that." He said it so casually, but the employees in the audience were furious. "You should be damned, Sincere Clark. You ruined $100 million project just like that. I bet even President Ainsworth won't protect you this time, Pay. Up as per company policy, you have to compensate at least 10% without Ethan even having to ask. The crowd had already done the math for me. Fine. I looked at the vultures circling me. If it weren't for me, would they be living so comfortably? 10 million, is it? I'll have someone deliver it right now. Just make sure you accept it with that." I grabbed a phone from someone nearby and made a call. Ethan watched me with disdain. After I hung up, he scoffed. "Stop pretending. No matter how close you are to President Ainsworth, is he really going to just give you $10 million? Just get on your knees and apologize to me and Victoria. If you do, I'll work extra hard tonight and maybe, just maybe, I can salvage the project." The crowd looked at him with admiration. "See, that's what you call competence. Will that useless waste, Sincere Clark, ever achieve half of what Assistant Miller has? He's a joke. What can he do besides bluff? And the funny thing is, he can't even do that right." The crowd began to taunt me again. I remained silent, just waiting for my people to arrive. A few minutes later, Victoria grew impatient. "Sincere Clark, can you stop wasting our time? Do you know how long you've delayed the annual gala with your nonsense?" "Yeah, this is the company gala. What right do you have to waste all our time? You'll never earn 10 million in your life. Why are you still struggling?" "Kneel, apologize." The crowd chanted in unison for me to kneel and apologize. Just as Ethan was walking towards me with a vicious grin, about to force me to my knees, a group of people arrived at the auditorium. "Mr. Clark, I've brought the 10 million you requested." The man in the lead was none other than the general manager of the city's main bank, Manager Quincy. He clapped his hands and the men behind him opened several briefcases, each containing $1 million in neatly stacked bills. "Is that Manager Quincy? Am I seeing things? He personally delivered money for Sincere Clark? He called him Mr. Clark? What kind of background does this guy have?" The crowd was stunned. Ethan's jaw dropped as he watched the scene unfold. When Manager Quincy confirmed the amount with him, he finally snapped out of it. His eyes lit up, and he immediately took all the money. All right, Sincere Clark, since the money's here, I'll let the previous matter slide. He was grinning from ear to ear, but I just stared at him coldly. Now that your issue is resolved, shouldn't we discuss my compensation? The room went silent for a moment. A moment later, Ethan burst out laughing. He took my phone from my hand. Buddy, what do you want me to compensate you for? Your game data? I'll give you $200 to replace the screen. Worst comes to worst, I'll buy you a new phone. As long as you have the SIM card, you can get your game account back, right? Ethan mocked me with disdain. The people in the audience joined in, laughing at me. Victoria looked at me with even more disappointment and said, I thought you might have some connections, that maybe I could respect you a little. I didn't expect you to be so brainless. Manager Quincy beside me tried to speak up, but I stopped him. Manager Quincy, you can head back. Also, tonight's international project is canceled. Cancel the foreign currency exchange we had scheduled as well, I spoke coldly. Manager Quincy froze. He gestured toward Victoria, his hand trembling with frustration. Finally, with a heavy sigh, he left in disappointment. Tonight's deal was a multinational collaboration, and the other party only accepted a specific foreign currency, all of which I had arranged to exchange through Manager Quincy. A currency exchange worth hundreds of millions would have been a huge profit for the bank, and another feather in Manager Quincy's cap. Who would have thought it would all be ruined by Victoria and this thankless crew? I don't know why you're putting on an act. What does the international project have to do with you? Ethan continued to mock me. Exactly, that was all Assistant Miller's hard work. What right do you have to talk about tonight's deal?
Kid, have you been gaming so much you're having hallucinations? You think the whole company revolves around you?
When President Ainsworth gets back, we'll have him fire you. I remained unmoved by the crowd's taunts. I just looked at Victoria and said, I only stayed here to help you out of respect for your father. I thought you would have inherited his good character. But you're far from what I imagined. You even got pregnant with your assistant's child while knowing your father wanted to set us up. In that case, I have nothing more to say. I am retracting all core technology provided to the Ainsworth Corporation. I spoke slowly. If President Ainsworth were here, he would understand that my words were a death sentence for his family. Retracting the technology I provided meant that their 3 major factories would all have to halt production. Once production stopped, so would their supply chain. And if they failed to deliver for 3 days, their breach of contract penalties would accumulate to an astronomical figure. Pfft, ha ha ha. Ethan leaned on a table, laughing so hard that tears welled up in his eyes. Victoria just shook her head and chuckled. Clearly, no one believed me, and no one cared what I had to say. Sincere Clark, I can't stand you anymore. I'm firing you right now. Just get out, okay? Victoria waved her hand dismissively, but I maintained my deadpan expression. You don't have the authority to fire me, and I advise you to consult your father before you try. I stared at Victoria coldly. She disgusted me. To think I had held out hope for someone like her for so long, the thought made me feel utterly ridiculous. Are you insane? Are you saying only the president can fire you? Ethan still had that arrogant, mocking look on his face. I looked at him with a cold smile and said, Wrong. I'm saying even the president wouldn't dare fire me. The crowd erupted again, everyone calling me a lunatic. He's lost it, absolutely lost it. How dare he say something so audacious? Ethan pointed at me, his voice trembling with anger. Arrogance, utter arrogance. Victoria, remove him from the company system right now. Hurry. His commanding tone would have rubbed anyone the wrong way. But Victoria obediently took out her phone and began the process of firing me through the system. Sincere Clark, you could have left with dignity. She snorted. She thought she could fire me, but a moment later my phone buzzed. I told you, no one can fire me. I showed them the notification on my screen. My security clearance in the company had always been hidden. Only President Ainsworth could see my system level. And if anyone else tried to fire me, he would be notified immediately, and it would require my personal confirmation before I could be removed from the system. Victoria stared at the system prompt. stunned. What kind of spell did you cast on my dad? He gave you this kind of top-level special access? She looked at me, bewildered. I didn't explain, just stared at her coldly and said, "Now, can we discuss my compensation?" Ethan stepped forward with a sneer. He said contemptuously, "Fine. Let's hear how much you want in compensation." I held up one finger. Ethan froze, then said disdainfully, $10,000? You think that old second-hand phone is still worth that much? But fine, I'm a nice guy. He started to pull out his wallet, but I shook my head, indicating he was wrong. Victoria frowned. Then how much? It's just a broken phone. You're not going to ask for 100,000, are you? She looked at me impatiently. I shook my head again. Seeing this, the surrounding people laughed with a mix of anger and amusement. Not 10,000, not 100,000. You mean 10 million or 100 million? They questioned me with sneers. I didn't bother beating around the bush. I said word by word, 10 billion. Dollars, I added. The room was silent for a second, then erupted in hysterical laughter. Damn, that's hilarious security. Get this lunatic out of here. Are you insane from all that gaming? $10 billion? You just say whatever comes to mind, don't you? I guess President Ainsworth knew he was delusional, so he kindly kept him in the company out of pity. Everyone in the room was bent over with laughter. Victoria's face had completely darkened. My dad was crazy. He actually wanted me to go on a date with a psychopath like this? She gritted her teeth, stepped forward, and pointed at my nose. You'd better get out of here now before you regret it when security throws you out. Just as she finished speaking, President Ainsworth finally rushed in. He ran in from outside, taking 3 steps at a time. Dr. Clark, please don't go our company. Can't lose you, Dad? Victoria stared in shock at her father. At that moment, President Ainsworth had run up to me, his expression frantic as he looked around. Who dared to fire Dr. Clark? He was furious. The faces of the people around us changed as they exchanged confused glances. Victoria frowned and asked her father, Dad, what's wrong? Sincere Clark is just a useless waste. Why do you care so much about him? Hearing her words, the president almost slapped her. In the end, he just clapped a hand over her mouth. What nonsense are you talking? Do you have any idea how much Dr. Clark has helped our family? If he's a waste, then everyone here, including me, is the worst of the worst. President Ainsworth's voice cracked. The crowd's expressions changed again, but Victoria still didn't believe it. Dad, we've already looked into it. Sincere Clark is delusional. You only took him in because his grandfather and my grandfather were army buddies. But why go this far? The company won't be affected if he leaves, but keeping him here makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Victoria broke free from her father's grasp and continued to mock me. President Ainsworth was so angry he nearly fainted, clutching his chest. You shut up. I didn't tell you his identity. Partly because I was worried you'd be under too much pressure, and partly because I wanted Dr. Clark to see the real you. But you. President Ainsworth clutched his chest and sank into a chair. Victoria rushed to pour him some water and pat his back. Dad, stop joking. If he was really that capable, why didn't he ever stand up to us? And if you knew what he said, you'd die laughing too. Victoria continued, completely oblivious. Ethan chimed in, as if seeking credit, and said mockingly, This lunatic said he was going to cancel tonight's international deal and have manager Quincy from the main bank cancel the foreign exchange. Then he said something about retracting all core tech support for the Ainsworth family. And finally, he even said that you don't have the authority to fire him. It was hilarious. Ethan slapped his thigh, laughing. But the next second, the president's hand slapped across his face. Shut up, the slap was so hard, Ethan's face was contorted. Get on your knees and apologize to Dr. Clark right now. The president's voice trembled as he ordered him to apologize to me. But I just said calmly, No need, Mr. Ainsworth. I've already settled things with them. A compensation of $10 billion, and I'll leave immediately. You dare say that again? Ethan's eyes widened in anger, but another slap from the president immediately followed. Did I say you could speak? He roared. Ethan froze, too scared to move. Then the president turned to me, his voice trembling. "Dr. Clark, I'll give you $20 billion. No, $30 billion, just please, take back what you said. Please." He was so emotional that it seemed if I refused, he might just die on the spot. Now the crowd was truly dumbfounded. Victoria in particular looked at me in utter disbelief. "Sincere Clark, who are you? What have you done to my father?" "Shut up, you ungrateful daughter." The president, trembling with rage, dragged Victoria over and forced her to her knees before me. "I'm so sorry, Dr. Clark. I never thought Victoria would do something like this. She's a good girl. She was never like this before. Part of the reason you came to the company was because you were interested in my daughter, wasn't it? I'll approve her marriage to you. Just please, reconsider your compensation demand." President Ainsworth looked at me desperately. But before I could speak, Victoria refused. "No, why should I marry someone like him?" She glared at me. "Sincere Clark, if you're a man, you'll refuse my father. Exactly. Miss Ainsworth and I are in love. How can someone like you just break us up?" Ethan also stepped forward, standing in front of her. Now it was the president's turn to be stunned. What did you say?" He stared blankly at Ethan. Ethan proudly pulled Victoria up. "Victoria is pregnant with my child. She was going to tell you the good news after the gala, but it seems we have to tell you now." He held his head high and even shot me a triumphant glance. Hearing this, President Ainsworth collapsed to the floor. "It's over. It's all over." His eyes went vacant. Ethan didn't hear him clearly and tried to help him up. "Dad, you can't just sit on the floor even if you're happy, right?" He reached out to help, but the president punched him in the face and started beating him on the ground. "You animal, if the Ainsworth family is ruined because of you, I'll make you wish you were dead in the end." It was Victoria who pulled him off. "Enough, Dad, what are you so afraid of? He's just a doormat who sleeps and plays games." Victoria simply couldn't comprehend. The president sat on the floor looking utterly defeated, on the verge of tears. "Sincere Clark, Dr. Clark, for the past 3 years, he is the one who has been providing us with the world's most advanced core technology. That's the only reason we've gotten this far. Do you know what it means if he retracts his technology? It means 99% of our current projects will be frozen, because every single one of them uses his technology, and all our future projects are based on his core tech." The president sat on the floor, truly wanting to cry. Only then did the people in the room realize I hadn't been bluffing. "What? He's the mysterious doctor providing the core technology? I thought that doctor worked for a top tech firm overseas. How could he be hiding in our company, pretending to be a lazy bum?" The crowd buzzed in shock. The president pounded the floor and said, "That's because Dr. Clark doesn't like to reveal his identity. We needed a gimmick to attract clients, so Dr. Clark humbled himself, and let us say the tech came from some fancy overseas company he was affiliated with. He did it all for us. Now the crowd was completely dumbfounded. Indeed, who would believe that a deadbeat who only played video games was the backbone of the entire company? How was that possible? He's just a deadbeat. Victoria's jaw hung open, unable to believe what she was hearing. I pursed my lips, no longer bothering to hide my identity. "Let me be frank. Providing core technology was one part of it. The other part was me using my personal connections to bring you collaborations worth hundreds of billions. Why else do you think the top tech firms in the capital would deign to work with you? Why would the new tech park in the South offer to help with your production? It's because I made the calls. I guaranteed them that the Ainsworth family would make them money, and that I would provide partial tech support." I looked at Victoria coldly. Although it was pointless to explain too much to someone so ignorant, I wanted her to understand the consequences of offending me and your company overseas. "You think you built it up through your own ability? The reality is all your partners agreed to work with you because of me." "Impossible." Victoria denied it instantly. She gritted her teeth and said, "I don't know about here, but my success overseas was definitely my own doing." Hearing this, I sneered. "Is that so? Well, since you're so confident, why don't you call your client for tonight's international negotiation and ask if they still want to partner with you? I looked at Victoria with disdain. With trembling hands, Victoria stubbornly made the call. A moment later, she heard news she couldn't accept. Sorry, we've been informed that Dr. Clark is no longer with your company. We will not participate in any collaboration without him. The person on the other end had already heard about my departure. Without me, there was no guarantee of success. And without that guarantee, why would they bother going through the trouble of collaborating with a company from our country? Impossible. This is impossible, Victoria frantically called all her overseas partners. The answer was unanimously the same. Everyone, without exception, canceled their contracts, some even willing to pay penalties to get out. Victoria collapsed to the floor, staring at me in terror. Sincere, She opened her mouth, not knowing what to say. Just then, President Ainsworth, having recovered slightly, crawled and knelt before me. Dr. Clark, please, give us one more chance, he begged, tears and snot running down his face. To be honest, I felt a little pity. But to be equally honest, I had already done more than enough. Mr. Ainsworth, your people have already accepted my $10 million compensation. There's no turning back now. I spoke slowly. At first I wasn't angry. I even understood why they looked down on me. But that idiot Ethan had to extort me. And since he succeeded, this was no longer a matter that could be resolved by simply returning the money. Mr. Ainsworth, you have two choices. 1. You give me $10 billion in compensation and 50% of the company's original shares, and I will continue to provide you with technology. The second option is you keep your money to pay off the others, and I will retract all my technology. I looked at President Ainsworth calmly. His mouth hung open, his face a mask of bitter anguish. He couldn't choose. Sincere Clark, direct your anger at me. I'll marry you if I have to. Victoria cried, shielding her father. Ethan was shocked. No, Victoria, don't forget you're carrying my child. How can you compromise with him? Victoria smiled bitterly. Ethan, you have to understand. I was never born to be free. The Ainsworth family needs me now, and I must step up. My lip twitched as I watched the two of them. Are you two morons? I couldn't help but curse. Victoria froze. Who told you I'm even interested in you? You're pregnant with another man's child and you have the audacity to say you'll be with me? Who are you trying to disgust? Take a good look at yourself. You're a real piece of work. I never thought my adoration for Victoria could turn into such revulsion in just half an hour. In the end, I gave them one night to think it over. I would return to the company the next morning, and they had to pick one of my two options. That night, Victoria called me countless times. She dropped her facade and sent me a flood of messages. Sincere, I was blind before. I was foolish. The truth is, I fell in love with you the first moment I saw you. What happened with Ethan was an accident. I swear we only slept together once. I'm still clean. Please believe me, I would love to marry you, and I swear it would be for love, not to save my family later. She even sent some explicit photos. But she didn't know I had already blocked her. The next morning I arrived at the Ainsworth Corporation headquarters. The executives who used to look down on me the most were now lined up at the entrance to welcome me, each one trying to curry favor. Sincere Victoria, dressed to the nines, ran towards me, trying to throw herself into my arms. I sidestepped, and she nearly fell. Still, she looked at me fawningly and said, "Sincere, I've kicked Ethan to the curb. I promise he will never appear before you again. How dare that leech offend you? If it weren't for him, we wouldn't have had such a falling out last night, right?" She eagerly grabbed my hand. "Sincere, can we start over? Just pretend the past never happened. I promise I will make you the happiest man in the world." Looking at the hypocritical woman before me, I mercilessly pushed her away. "Miss Ainsworth, your actions yesterday already disgusted me. Please show some restraint. Otherwise, I'll add another condition. I will only continue to provide technology if you are fired." I looked at Victoria coldly. In a way, I should thank her. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have given up on relationships so completely. At least after being disgusted by her, I'll be off the dating scene for a while, which gives me a good opportunity to focus on myself either by filling my pockets or building my power. Victoria sat on the ground wailing, but no one paid her any attention. In the end, President Ainsworth made the difficult decision. He transferred 50% of the company's shares to me and paid me $10 billion. It was the only way for his family to survive. Even if he earned less than before, at least he was still earning, not facing immediate bankruptcy, right? The last I heard of Ethan Miller, he had been lured overseas by an online scam syndicate, had his kidneys harvested, and died a miserable death. Apparently, after being dumped by Victoria, he naively trusted some international friends he thought he had and was tricked into going there. At first, he was beaten with electric batons for not meeting his scamming quotas. Then, because he was somewhat effeminate, he was forced into prostitution. When he was completely used up, they took him for his organs. As for me, this whole affair made me much busier. I soon began to build my own business empire. You have to get burned to learn and grow. I just hope I don't have to learn any more lessons like this in the future. At my wedding, my fiancé's ex-boyfriend showed up wearing the exact same suit as me to crash it. She said to me, "I'm sorry, Sincere, I still can't forget Ethan." Without hesitation, she abandoned me and ran off, leaving me alone on the stage to endure the mockery from all sides. Then, Ethan's fiancée, dressed in her own wedding gown, walked towards me. "If she won't marry you, I will." "Wanix, are you sure?" I looked at the woman extending her hand towards me, somewhat surprised. I'd heard she and Ethan Chandler had been in a long-term relationship, deeply in love. Why would she suddenly propose marrying me? I felt ridiculous for the question that had just slipped out, but the next second, Victoria Mason decisively took the ring box from my hand, pulled out the groom's ring, and slid it onto my finger. Then she held out her own left hand, her eyes sparkling as she looked at me. "Oh, ew, Sincere Lawrence. I graduated from a top university. I'm educated." Our family companies already cooperate to varying degrees. While I didn't take over the family business, I've made a name for myself in modeling these past few years. And I have a career, I'm capable, and I'm better looking than your ex-fiancée, Felicia Fletcher. Since marrying me is no loss to you. With her laying it all out like that, hesitating would make me less of a man. I took the ring off my finger and tossed it back into the box. "She don't want to?" Her expression changed, pouting slightly as she stared at me. I smiled. "No, it's just that this ring isn't your size. We'll go get new ones custom-made later." Also, I glanced around the wedding venue I had meticulously prepared, feeling only irony. "And since I'm marrying you, I want to give you the best. I don't want you to settle for someone else's leftovers. Let's go get the marriage license first. Give me 3 days, and I'll give you a wedding that belongs only to us." Victoria's smile returned, and she came over to link her arm through mine. Without even changing our clothes, we headed straight to City Hall. Amidst the congratulatory gazes of the staff, we received the marriage certificate that was uniquely ours. After ordering the new rings and dropping her home, I had just arrived back at my own place when Felicia Fletcher showed up. The wedding dress from the morning was long gone, replaced by a form-fitting dress with a high collar that didn't quite conceal faint red marks underneath. It seemed that besides getting married, she and Ethan had already consummated the marriage. Seeing me, Felicia put on a fawning smile. "Darling, you're back." I took a step back, avoiding her outstretched hand. "But Miss Fletcher, shouldn't you be spending your wedding night with your husband instead of coming to my house?" Her smile froze, and she looked at me with a hurt expression. "Sincere, do you really have to be so sarcastic? Does hurting my feelings make you happy? Sometimes you just have to laugh when you're speechless." Felicia abandoned me at the wedding altar and ran off with another man. She didn't think that hurt my feelings. She disappeared for a day and returned covered in marks left by another man. She didn't think that hurt my feelings either. But a single sentence from me somehow wounded her fragile heart. Her heart must be incredibly delicate. Seeing my displeased expression, she finally seemed to remember her outrageous actions from today. Squeezing out a couple of tears, she explained softly, I didn't mean to leave you like that today. She said, it's all Ethan's fault. He begged me to help him put on an act to provoke his girlfriend, that model, Victoria Mason. You know her, right? Well, you know how much I hate her, so when Ethan asked for my help, I agreed. So didn't realize our weddings would be on the same day. It was such a rare chance to crush my archenemy. How could I possibly miss it? The more she talked, the more justified she sounded in her own mind. She crossed her legs casually. Don't worry, Ethan and I have it all figured out. During the day, we'll pretend to be a couple to annoy Victoria, but I'll still come back to spend the nights with you. Worst case, once Victoria gets on her knees and begs Ethan for forgiveness, you and I can just have another wedding. How could she even say something like that? What did she think marriage was? A children's game of house? I struggled to suppress the fury rising within me. And Felicia Fletcher, whatever absurdities you and Ethan get up to are none of my business. I don't have a cuckold fetish, and I will absolutely not share my wife with another man. Oh, now please get the hell out of my house. This was the first time I had ever spoken to Felicia in such a harsh tone. She shot up from her seat, staring at me in disbelief. Sincere Lawrence, what do you mean? Are you breaking up with me? I gave a scornful laugh. When you let go of my hand at the wedding and left with Ethan, I thought we already broke up, and I expected her to show a sliver of regret at hearing this. Instead, she rolled her eyes. Sincere, I already explained. Ethan and I are just pretending. And you trying to threaten me with a breakup? Are you still a 3-year-old? My patience worn thin, I directly asked Mrs. Davis, the housekeeper, to show her out. Rejected repeatedly, Felicia stood at the door, furious, stomping her foot. Sincere Lawrence, don't you regret this? If I walk out this door today, even if you kneel and beg me to come back later, I won't give you the time of day. She stormed off angrily. So much had happened today. Exhausted, I lay on the bed, my mind involuntarily replaying Felicia's appearance as she left. I first met her during an outdoor camping trip. I spotted Felicia almost instantly in the crowd. She had a lively personality, easily mingling with strangers, and her smile was infectious. Late that night, however, I found her crying alone under a tree, a stark contrast to her sunny daytime demeanor. She looked up at me, and the tears on her face hit me hard. At that moment, the only thought in my head was the desire to protect her. Later, we exchanged contact information. Chatting idly, I learned she had just gone through a breakup. Feeling sorry for her, I began to pursue her more diligently, asking her out almost every week. She gradually let her guard down around me and accepted my confession of love. I thought we would continue like this, eventually walking down the aisle together. Unexpectedly, Ethan Chandler returned from abroad a year ago. Felicia immediately reconnected with him. She kept telling me they were just ordinary friends now, but their actions had long crossed that line. Even this wedding, the original date was next month. Felicia insisted on having it today, even giving me the cold shoulder over it. I had no choice but to relent. Looking back now, it seems likely she and Ethan had plotted this all along. The next day, I went to my parents' house and told them I had already registered my marriage with Victoria Mason. My parents were furious about Felicia's outrageous behavior yesterday and fully supported my decision. My mother said fiercely, "On told you that girlfriend of yours was trouble yesterday. She utterly disgraced the Lawrence family name." "I know the Mason girl, Victoria. She's a much better match for you." "Your father and I have decided we'll add another $1 million to the wedding gifts and throw in a villa in the Southern District, and want to see that Fletcher woman regret leaving my son." Although the marriage to Victoria was sudden, we couldn't skip the necessary formalities. Carrying the new wedding gifts my parents had prepared, I headed towards Victoria's family home for the traditional visit. Just as I left the villa complex, a flashy red sports car forced me to stop. Felicia leaned out from the driver's seat. Her eyes caught sight of the passenger seat and back row of my car, piled high with gift boxes and the property deed resting on top. A flicker of triumph crossed her face. You heading to my house? Sincere, you don't really think that after saying such awful things to me yesterday, you can just bribe my parents with this stuff today to speak well of you, do you? Ethan sat beside Felicia, sneering. See, Felicia, didn't I tell you? These rich kids think money can buy anything. He tilted his head arrogantly. Then Sincere, let me tell you, if you want to win a girl back, sincerity is what matters most. Tanto, Ethan, you understand me best, Felicia replied, a coy smile gracing her lips. The two of them played off each other, claiming to despise money, yet the greed in their eyes was practically spilling over. I turned the steering wheel to back up. No need. My sincerity isn't for those who don't know how to cherish it. Felicia's expression suddenly turned ugly. She got out of the car, walked over, yanked open my car door, and swept everything from the seats onto the ground. And Sincere, I told you. I won't forgive you easily this time. Don't think you can buy people off with this junk. The property deed from the passenger seat and gift boxes scattered across the pavement. These were gifts my parents had personally chosen for Victoria's family. My heart ached, and I quickly got out to pick them up. Ethan also got out of the car. Pretending not to see, he stepped squarely on the property deed, leaving a dirty footprint. Furious, I shoved him away. Ethan staggered back, collapsing dramatically onto the ground. Felicia immediately turned red-eyed and pushed me. Sincere, how dare you hit him? Sensei already told you, Ethan and I are just acting. Can't you have a little tolerance? I want to see what's more important in your heart, these things. Or me, she screamed, stomping madly on the gift boxes like a lunatic. Watching the gifts being utterly destroyed, a vein throbbed in my forehead. Behind Felicia's back, Ethan shot me a defiant look, then added fuel to the fire with a feigned innocent tone. Felicia, I hate to say it, but look at the kind of boyfriend you found after leaving me. He gets angry and throws tantrums at the drop of a hat, and now he's getting physical. Are you sure he won't be abusive after you get married? 5-inch. I thought I made myself perfectly clear yesterday. I forcefully pushed Felicia away and started gathering the scattered gift boxes. We have broken up. I hope you two will stop interfering in my life from now on. Felicia's expression froze, a flicker of panic in her eyes, but only for an instant. She forced a smile. Sincere, who could you possibly love besides me? See, go ahead, act tough. I'll be waiting for the day you come crawling back, regretting this. With that, she and Ethan jumped back into the car and sped off. Forced to choke on their exhaust fumes, I couldn't contain my anger. Watching the red sports car disappear, I suddenly remembered that the car Felicia was driving was a gift from me. Normally, I wouldn't care about gifts I'd given away, but their repeated provocations had pushed me past my limit. I decided it was time to reclaim what I'd given. After rearranging the gifts, I went to the Mason's house. Victoria's parents were also furious about Ethan's despicable actions. Learning that Victoria and I were already married, they couldn't stop smiling. Good. Victoria's father, Robert Mason, clapped me on the shoulder, laughing heartily. And I always said my daughter deserved better. After dinner, Victoria took me for a walk in their small garden to aid digestion. I asked her, "Has Ethan been bothering you lately?" She rolled her eyes. "Has he ever stopped?" And deliberately flaunts Felicia in front of me, living in his fantasy world where I'm supposed to get jealous and come begging for his forgiveness. I reassured her, "Don't worry. After tomorrow, his little dream world is going to shatter." She laughed, a small dimple appearing beside her lips. I found myself momentarily captivated. My gaze made her blush, and she playfully poked my chest, trying to look stern. "Do you think those two disasters will flip out and try to crash our wedding tomorrow when they find out?" I thumped my chest in assurance. "Relax. I've arranged for double the security at the hotel this time. I guarantee not even an extra fly will get into our wedding venue." Before dawn, the makeup artist roused me from bed. It wasn't until I put on the suit and stood before the mirror that the reality of getting married again truly sank in. Picking up the bride went smoothly. I carried Victoria into the wedding car, and we slowly headed towards the hotel. Unexpectedly, upon arrival, a large crowd was blocking the entrance, arguing loudly. Looking closer, I saw it was Felicia Fletcher and her relatives. Felicia was wearing a white-themed outfit, similar to her wedding attire from a few days ago, surrounded by her family. "What's going on up there?" Victoria mumbled, unable to see clearly. I soothed her. "Wait in the car, I'll go check it out." After I got out, Felicia looked at me, still wearing a sulky expression. In contrast, her parents, Gerald and Agnes Fletcher, gave me ingratiating smiles. Son-in-law, Felicia was definitely in the wrong the other day. "I've already given her a harsh lesson," Gerald Fletcher said, forcefully pushing Felicia towards me. I stepped aside, making no effort to hide my disgust. "Monid, we've already broken up." Felicia crossed her arms, sneering. "Sincere, what are you pretending for? Sincere, I heard all about it. After I left that day, you not only went to my favorite jewelry store to order a bigger diamond ring, but you also chose this even more luxurious hotel. Isn't it obvious you're trying to win me back?" She tilted her head towards the long line of wedding cars behind me. "I'm making such a huge spectacle, even having my parents drag me here. When did you learn to resort to emotional blackmail?"
"Well, I'm here now. Satisfied?"
Her parents hissed at her urgently. "Watch your mouth." Felicia was still lost in her own fantasy, while her parents had grasped reality much faster. After all, just yesterday, I had deliberately sent my lawyer to their house to demand the return of all the valuable assets I had gifted during my relationship with Felicia. They realized their daughter had seriously overplayed her hand this time, hence their frantic effort to dress her up and bring her here today. Felicia, however, still looked smug. Seeing me in a different suit, her expression soured and she snapped, "Is this how you apologize? Look what you're wearing today, it doesn't match my dress at all." "Ten Sincere, I'll give you half an hour." "Go back and change right now. Since you don't change, I'm not going through with this wedding today." It was like she couldn't understand plain English. My own anger flared. "What the hell does it have to do with me? Marry or don't marry, I don't care. And get out of the way." Her face turned ugly. "Sincere, you dare swear at me? When do you even want to get married today or not?" I looked at her, smiling faintly. "Of course I do. Just not to you." "What do you mean?" The next moment, Victoria, wearing a champagne-colored gown that matched my suit, stepped out of the car, came to my side, linked her arm through mine, and smiled brightly. "Darling, if we don't hurry, we'll miss the auspicious time." Felicia's eyes instantly turned red. Red with fury, that is. She seemed unable to believe what she was seeing, pointing a trembling finger at my nose and screaming, "Unsincere Lawrence, what the hell is this? I know I hate that fake woman Victoria Mason the most. Are you deliberately using her to provoke me?" "Fine, I admit it," she gave in, grabbing my other arm desperately. "Pon, you really got to me this time. You win, okay? I agree to forgive you, get back together, and marry you. Now hurry up and get rid of this bitch." I shook off her hand and signaled the hotel manager. "Tet security over here, quickly." Felicia looked at Victoria with triumphant malice. "Victoria, you really are shameless, aren't you? First, you tried to steal Ethan from me, now you're trying to steal Sincere. Do you just have to butt into everything I like? Ha. Let me tell you, you're doomed to fail this time. Sincere only has eyes for me. And if I were you, I'd leave right now. Otherwise, it'll be really humiliating when security throws you out." The next second, I pointed at Felicia and told the arriving security guards, "And get this crazy woman and all these irrelevant people out of here. Don't let them ruin my wedding day." Felicia froze. "Throw me out?" As the guards grabbed her, she kicked wildly. "Sincere, you're telling them to throw me out? What do you mean? You're not actually going to marry Victoria, are you? Oh, you're crazy, she's Ethan's girlfriend." So, she did know Ethan had a girlfriend. I ignored her, picked Victoria up in my arms, and started walking towards the hotel entrance. Behind me, Felicia panicked, struggling and screaming like a madwoman. "Let me go. I'm the bride today. If you don't let me go, I'll have my husband fire all of you. Then husband, don't go. I'm your wife. Aitch, all these years we've been together, are you just throwing me away? In my arms, Victoria rolled her eyes repeatedly, finally unable to stand it anymore. She tapped my arm, signaling me to put her down. She stomped over to Felicia and delivered a sharp slap across her face. Half of Felicia's face immediately swelled up. You dare hit me? Before she could finish, the other side of her face received a slap too. Victoria took our marriage certificate from her bridesmaid's bag and flaunted it in Felicia's face. Oh, bitch, who are you calling husband? Sincere Lawrence is my legal husband now. Are you addicted to being the other woman or something? Seeing the marriage certificate, the color drained instantly from Felicia's face. Well, no, impossible. When did this happen? I said. The same day you decided to run off with Ethan. The moment you two eloped, Victoria and I went straight to get our marriage license. And because I finally realized that an indecisive woman like you simply doesn't deserve my love. Now Felicia's expression became even uglier. She finally burst into tears, desperately reaching for me. Sincere, you love me, don't you? Why did you marry her? As I know you're angry, I abandoned you at the wedding, but I explained it was just an act. How could you marry her? The audacity she had to question me was laughable. With so many people watching today, I had initially intended to spare her some dignity out of respect for our past relationship, but she just wouldn't let it go. I had my assistant bring out the evidence I had prepared and threw it harshly in Felicia's face. Madonna act? Does acting require going this far? But don't try to pretty up cheating. It was a stack of photos I had specifically hired someone to take secretly. Felicia and Ethan in various places embracing, kissing, and even photos of them getting intimate on a balcony on their wedding day. The photos scattered all over the ground, clear for everyone present to see. Felicia's parents, seeing their daughter's disgraceful behavior, blushed crimson with shame, wishing the ground would swallow them up. Felicia's face was deathly pale as she mumbled, "Oh no, it's not insincere. I didn't mean to. Ethan and I broke up long ago. He forced me to do all this. The one I truly love is still you." I kicked her hand away. "Tet lost. I'm not in the habit of cuckolding myself." With that, I picked Victoria up again and headed into the hotel. Unexpectedly, the next moment, another heart-wrenching shout came from behind. Ethan Chandler arrived, looking disheveled, blocking my path and trying to snatch Victoria from my arms. "Victoria, you can't marry him." "I don't agree. 9, even a worm will turn." What was wrong with today? First Felicia, now Ethan, taking turns playing the regretful lover in front of me. The fury I'd been suppressing finally erupted. I kicked Ethan away, placed Victoria safely aside, then jumped on top of him, raining punches down on him relentlessly. "You son of a bitch, you getting addicted to crashing weddings, huh?" And my patience has its limits. Just as I was getting into it, Victoria suddenly shouted, "Insincere, let go!" I froze on the spot. A bitter taste filled my mouth. Because I suddenly remembered that just 3 days ago Victoria was still Ethan's girlfriend, and supposedly they had a very strong relationship. Was she regretting it now? Did seeing Ethan stir up old feelings, making her want to call off the wedding? The thought made my heart ache. Was I, Sincere Lawrence, really that terrible that women kept abandoning me one after another? The next second, Victoria pushed me aside. "Don't kill him, let me." She took off her high heels, gripping one like a weapon, and started furiously striking Ethan's face and body with the heel. "Bastard, how dare you show your face in front of me again, smack and leaving me at the altar to run off with another woman? That's a capital offense in my book. Each day is my wedding day, and you dare show up to ruin it? I'll beat you so bad your own mother won't recognize you." Ethan covered his head, writhing and screaming in pain. "Victoria, I'm sorry I was wrong. Sin, I only used Felicia to make you jealous. I didn't really want to break up with you. I still love you. Tanae. I'm sorry, don't marry him, marry me. I'll promise you anything. I'll treat you right this time. Pa. Victoria smacked him across the mouth with the sole of her shoe. You worthless bastard. You're not even worthy of a single strand of my hair. You want to marry me? Go eat shit. 10. It was the first time I'd seen Victoria this fierce. No one expected that on their wedding day, the bride and groom would be beating someone up at the hotel entrance. Everyone around was stunned. After a moment, the hotel manager finally snapped back to reality and quickly ordered the security guards to forcibly remove the disruptive individuals. Victoria put her shoes back on and looked at me somewhat awkwardly. Sorry, I got a little too worked up seeing that scumbag. Did we miss the auspicious time? No. She caught her breath, then extended her hand towards me, asking tentatively, So, are we still getting married today? I smiled, covering her slightly sweaty palm with mine, lacing our fingers together tightly. Absolutely. Under the officiant's guidance and witnessed by both sets of parents, the wedding was finally completed successfully. As Victoria and I exchanged rings on the stage, Felicia and Ethan crouched outside the hall doors, peering desperately through the crack. They clung like leeches. The security guards couldn't completely drive them away, so they ended up just guarding the main entrance tightly to prevent them from disrupting the ceremony further. When Victoria and I exchanged our vows, the two outside shouted at the top of their lungs. When I don't agree, for sincere, you can't marry her. Since Victoria, you can't marry him. Fortunately, their voices were completely drowned out by the applause, cheers, and blessings from inside the hall. Even if we had heard them, what difference would it make? Victoria and I were already legally married, our bond not easily shaken by a few words from others. That night, Victoria and I lay side by side on the festive red wedding quilt, both exhausted, letting out long sighs. We chatted idly, somehow ending up talking about those two unfortunate souls, Ethan and Felicia. Curious, I asked her, what happened at your wedding with Ethan that day? How did he suddenly end up crashing mine? Victoria gritted her teeth. Tanat Dog replaced the wedding video with a PowerPoint presentation of his family's rules, demanded I kneel and kowtow 3 times to serve tea to his parents on stage, and even tried to force me to sign some bullshit prenup, and demanded I quit my job after marriage to serve his parents. Have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and even make my parents list him as the heir to their fortune. When I refused, he threatened me, called off the wedding, and just ran off. Sinai chased after him and saw him running away with your bride. It's true, different people have different ways of being despicable. We both sighed deeply, commiserating over our past misfortunes with poor partners. Then I asked her, so when you agreed to marry me, weren't you afraid I might be just like Ethan? She thought for a few seconds, then rolled onto her side, propping her chin on her hand, studying me with doe-like eyes. Well, honestly, there was an element of risk involved at first. When I didn't have strong feelings for Ethan, I was planning to break up with him by the end of the year anyway. But my dad's health hasn't been great these past couple of years, and he really wanted to see me married, settled with a suitable man to take care of me. If it wasn't Ethan, it would have been some other Tom, Dick, or Harry. Since that day, seeing you standing on the stage, the heartbreak and loneliness in your eyes were so palpable. I just felt a pang of sympathy. Luckily, it seems my gamble paid off. Sanu stood up for me against Felicia and Ethan, protected me. That made me believe you're someone I can rely on. I reached out and wrapped my arm around her waist, her delicate fragrance filling my senses. Victoria looked at me with deep affection, and a strange sense of joy bloomed within me. Her cheeks flushed crimson. She gently closed her eyes, her lashes fluttering, offering a silent invitation. I leaned in and kissed her lips. Later, in the depths of the passionate night, her arms were wrapped around my neck, her body moving with mine. I gently nibbled her earlobe and whispered, "Don't worry, I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret the decision you made that day." Local custom dictates a visit to the bride's family home on the 3rd day after the wedding. Loaded with gifts prepared by my parents, I drove Victoria towards the Mason's house. We had just left our neighborhood when someone blocked our path. Felicia Fletcher's figure once again came into view. She stood in front of the car, arms outstretched. My reaction had progressed from annoyance to numbness. How had I never realized before what an incredibly persistent leech Felicia was? Victoria patted my arm. I'll wait in the car. As soon as I got out, Felicia rushed forward, trying to take my hand. I impatiently pushed her away. Spit it out. I have things to do. No time to waste playing games with you. She put on a wounded expression. Sincere, are you really so impatient now that you can't even spare a few words from me? Pure nonsense. I turned to leave, but she called out sharply, finally stammering out her purpose. It's just, those things you gave me before. Can you please not take them back? I laughed. Over the past 2 days, my company's legal department had visited the Fletchers and reclaimed all the high-value assets I had gifted Felicia during our relationship. This included the large apartment her parents were living in, their car, and Felicia's flashy red sports car, altogether worth millions. Now that we were no longer involved, why should I continue gifting her such expensive things? Sincere, I truly know I was wrong. I've cut ties completely with Ethan. Can you please give me another chance? She pleaded tearfully. Besides, everyone makes mistakes, right? Didn't you immediately move on to that bitch Victoria Mason right after we broke up? Technically, you're the one at fault in this relationship, so what right do you have to take back the things you gave me? She actually had the nerve to turn the tables and blame me. When it came down to it, she just couldn't bear to part with my money. I was genuinely tired. Looking at her, my voice was flat. Felicia, you know perfectly well whose fault this is. I've already shown you considerable decency. It's my money. I'll give it to whomever I please. It's none of your business. If you keep harassing me, I'll send the lawyers back to your house tomorrow to collect all the bags and jewelry, too. Those items combined were worth at least $200,000 or $300,000. At the mention of returning everything, Felicia immediately shut up. I looked at the woman I had loved for several years. She looked like she hadn't slept well these past few days. Her face was gaunt, eyes bloodshot, dark circles and bags under her eyes so prominent that heavy makeup couldn't conceal them. There was still a faint handprint on her cheek, likely from her angry parents. If this had been the old me, seeing her like this would have broken my heart. But now I felt nothing. I said, on the day you walked out of the wedding, you told me you couldn't forget Ethan. Now that I've let you go to be with him, why are you still bothering me? So both still have feelings for each other. Why don't you just get married quickly and try to make a life together? At the mention of Ethan, disgust immediately flashed in Felicia's eyes. Impossible, I could never marry Ethan. I broke up with him in the first place because I couldn't stand his family. Not much money, but tons of ridiculous rules. Said I'd rather be single forever than actually marry Ethan. I was rather speechless. If she wasn't willing to marry Ethan, why did she stage that whole elopement drama in the first place? All I could say was, you reap what you sow. Her current situation was entirely her own doing. Felicia, I'm warning you one last time. I am married now. Please stop interfering in my life. I know very well, if I really wanted to make things difficult for you, I have plenty of ways and means. After I completely cut ties with Felicia, Ethan also harassed Victoria a few times. He waited for her downstairs at her company building, holding flowers, making a big scene, humbling himself to confess his love and apologize. He even pulled out a diamond ring, knelt on one knee, and proposed to Victoria again. Oblivious bystanders egged Victoria on, telling her to accept. Victoria wasn't having any of it. She slapped Ethan's handsome face left and right until it was swollen like a pig's head. She also loudly broadcasted all of Ethan's misdeeds, the elopement, the cheating, the bizarre family rules. The whole incident was filmed by onlookers and uploaded online. Now everyone knew Ethan Chandler was an absolute scumbag. His reputation was utterly ruined. 14 after that, Victoria and I embarked on our honeymoon trip. We had new wedding photos taken and renewed our vows to each other for a lifetime of companionship in a church in Paris. Upon returning from our honeymoon, the next news we heard about Felicia and Ethan was splashed across the front page of the city newspaper. With his reputation destroyed and unable to win Victoria back, Ethan had gone crawling back to Felicia. Although Felicia had sworn she wouldn't marry Ethan, she still harbored feelings for him. A few sweet nothings from him were enough to lure her back into his web. This time, Ethan deliberately poked holes in condoms. Once Felicia was pregnant, he brought his parents to the Fletcher's house to formally propose marriage. Felicia had already had several abortions for Ethan when she was younger. The doctor warned that if she didn't carry this pregnancy to term, she might never be able to have children of her own. Left with no choice, they had a shotgun wedding. After a hastily arranged ceremony, Felicia moved into the Chandler household. The Chandlers' bizarre family rules began to be enforced upon Felicia one by one. Things like having to wake up at 5 a.m. to cook breakfast for the entire family, women not being allowed to eat at the main table, having to kneel on the floor. While listening to lectures from her father-in-law and mother-in-law, Felicia was tormented until she was a shadow of her former self, and she eventually lost the baby. She complained to Ethan, but he just mocked her. Unwo told you to be unable to control your lower half back then. Didn't you think you were still the precious high society wife Sincere Lawrence pampered? Now that you've married into my family, you follow my family's rules. Felicia wanted a divorce, but her in-laws refused, even locking her in her room. Finally, pushed beyond endurance, Felicia waited until the whole family was asleep late one night, poured gasoline throughout the house, and set it ablaze, taking everyone, including herself, down in flames. Seeing the news, Victoria shivered with lingering fear. Thank goodness Ethan ran off that day. I was so lucky I didn't marry into that family. And I should thank Ethan for not marrying me. I suppose that's what they mean when they say fate protects the fortunate. I smiled and wrapped my arm around her waist. On that case, tonight I'll make your favorite sweet and sour ribs to help calm your nerves. She threw a pillow at me, feigning annoyance. Sincere Lawrence, stop tempting me with delicious food, and you've already made me gain weight.